Tiger for getting us started here. But I do want to talk for a minute about WEP-GPO. Obviously, I've been on the bill forever, thought the thing was coming through, never quite understood why it hadn't happened. I go to this meeting and you guys jump on me and say, look, sister, we need a few more Democrats who hadn't quite done it. Can you believe that? Chuck Schumer was not yet signed on. And we need some Republicans signed on. I said, sure, I can do some Republicans. They said, go talk to Ted Cruz. I said, can we think about something else? But this is my commitment to you. I will go talk to anyone to try to fight for what we believe in. And the latest, because I haven't talked to you since then, is just yesterday. I talked to the leader of the Senate, Chuck Schumer, and I said, Chuck, we need the vote on WEP-GPO. So, fingers crossed, we're going to stay on this. We take nothing for granted, but to bear down on this and to make sure it is the Senate version that we are doing here. So that's what we got to fight for. You know, it truly is an honor to go to Washington and fight on your behalf. And I want to talk just for 1 minute about something we got done earlier that just kind of slides by and nobody talks about much. And that is take you back 3.5 years. Joe Biden has just been sworn in. It's January of 2021. The Democrats, just by a squeaker, have taken over the majority in the Senate. Remember, 50-50 is called the majority if you have the vice president to break the tie. And we have this tiny little majority in the House. And the first thing we do is we come roaring out with a bill called ARPA. And not a great name, I don't even remember what it stands for. But it's what everybody refers to. It's the ARPA bill, and the whole point was to shovel money. We said, coming out of this pandemic, everybody's still under stress, and we need to put one more kind of slug of money into the economy. And we passed that bill. Here's the deal. For any one of you who lives in a town that didn't lay off its teachers, that didn't lay off its firefighters, that didn't lay off its police officers, that didn't lay off its first responders, that didn't lay off its town clerk, that didn't lay off the people who do the work to keep those towns up and running, you can say thank you, ARPA, because that's where the money all came from. And the reason I emphasize that is because to me, it is an explanation of what we see as our values. We believe that the work of government is important. We believe it is important to show up and serve the people. We also believe that doesn't happen through magic fairy dust. It happens because we pass taxes and then we put that money back into public services. And that is part of what ARPA was all about, and I just want to be clear on this. Democrats put it up, and how many Republican votes did we get? 0. Not one damn Republican would vote to keep our towns open, to keep our states open, to keep us doing the work we need to do. So I just have to stop with that one and underscore it, because I feel like we lived through it, we got the benefits, and we don't pay enough attention to it. Second thing I want to mention is we then turned around and passed 3 more bills. As you know, big infrastructure bill, CHIPS and Science, Inflation Reduction Act. But here's what that's done. Because at the federal level, we've said we're going to make more money available. We're going to invest more in America. I've been able, along with the federal delegation, to bring more than $20 billion right back here to Massachusetts. And there's more coming. This is, we're kind of on the front part of the slope on this one. And this is about green school buses, and it's about solar panels, it's about roads and bridges. But understand this, It's about making sure our state works. We need these things in our state. And every time we put money, for example, into rebuilding a bridge, it also means there's more money coming back into our communities. Because every one of these projects that I work on federal money, comes with a project labor agreement. For me, you don't get my vote if there's not a project labor agreement. If we're spending taxpayers' dollars, they have a right to know that the job will be done right and that the people who do it are getting paid a livable wage, something you can support a family. By the way, if any of you missed it, I hope you've seen the back and forth I've had with the Boston Globe over this. They seem to think that project labor agreements cost money. They do not. That is not what the research shows. You do the project right the first time, it actually saves taxpayer money. So I've done an op-ed with Chrissy Lynch on this, and if anybody wants to see it, I'd be glad to hand it out. Because this is a fight we've just got to have. We cannot let them get away with the notion that somehow union labor is more expensive and less productive than non-union labor, because it is simply not true. And we've got to call them out on the facts on this. So Mark has done a great job of talking through what lies ahead, but I want to emphasize a couple of points that he has gone to and kind of add a little bit here. We really have, talk about we've come to the, not even the fork in the road, it's like the T in the road. We're going to go one way or the other with this election in 2024. If Donald Trump takes the White House or Republicans take the Senate, I want you to remember two words if either one of those happen, and that is Supreme Court. And I'm talking to the people who've lived with this Supreme Court. You all were the first with Janice to just see what the Supreme Court can try to do to undermine working people. But understand this, the Supreme Court is not through with unions. We have got to have a Democratic president, and we've got to have Democratic control of the House and the Senate so we can wind back this extremist Supreme Court. My own solution to this is expand the Supreme Court, get some balance back in it, so that these guys cannot take down every working person in this country. Also, have you noticed what Donald Trump has now embraced in his campaign? He has said he wants to bring in Elon Musk. Elon. Oh, Leon, you got it, okay.
Call him Leon.
Oh, I called him Leon, you're right about that. He wants to bring in Elon Musk for efficiency. And the other thing that Donald Trump talks about on the stump, every time he goes out, is that he wants to cut taxes. And of course, we know who he's cutting taxes for, and that is millionaires, billionaires, and giant corporations. The reason I want to identify those two is because this is the work we did. You cut taxes and you put somebody like Musk in charge of efficiency. That means that where we already have one person doing the job of two, where we already have hiring freezes so people can't do the work that needs to be done, where we already can't bring in young people and new people to help out and to refresh the core of people who need to do the work, they want to take it exactly in the opposite direction. This is an opportunity for the Republicans to further shrink our federal workforce and through taxes and the money we do support our state and our local workforces as well. And we can't be fooled by whatever else they talk about, because that is the direction that they are driving. These are people who believe that we need a tiny little government so that the billionaires, the giant corporations can do whatever the hell they want, and there will be nobody left to call them out on it. So I think it is really crucial when we look at the entire Trump agenda and the importance of hanging on to the United States Senate, because if we have If we have the White House and we don't have the Senate, every Supreme Court justice will have to be Republican approved. If we can't hang on to the Senate, none of the laws that we need to pass will be able to go through. So I particularly emphasize that part of it. But that's where Donald Trump, that is the future he wants. One that works better and better for a tinier and tinier group at the top, and worse for everyone else. Project 2025 really does put the fine point on it, because it both says, in effect, just whittle down our federal workforce, and also says, by the way, how they want to pay for those tax cuts for those at the top is they want to increase taxes for middle-class families. They want you to pick up the ticket. And that's just something we need to fight hard back against. I want to say it's not just, though, that we get out there and fight so that Donald Trump is not able to destroy our federal and state and local workforce. It's also that there are positive things that we can do. And Kamala Harris and Democrats are ready to do them. I'm here running for re-election in the Senate from Massachusetts, and I want to tell you, I got 3 things high on my agenda. The first one, it is time to pass the PRO Act. Come on. I know you have your union, you've got a wonderful union with AFSCME, you've got great leadership. But ultimately, if we can't expand union membership in this country, we're going to be on an island that just keeps shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. The PRO Act is the opportunity to meet the moment. We have millions of people across this country who say, I'd like to join a union. I'd like to be able to do that. Yeah, I would like someone to represent me when we're talking about salary negotiations, we're talking about our working conditions, we're talking about being unfairly laid off. Yeah, I want someone. But forming a union in America today has become almost impossible. The anti-union lawyers, they have formed a bar that has learned every trick in the book. And so as soon as an employer hears that there's someone even whispering the word union, they're on the phone to these guys, they move in and they've got the entire package laid out to scare people off from voting for the very representation that they need and want. The PRO Act is designed to do 2 things. To make it a whole lot easier to unionize by saying to the employers there are a bunch of what are really unfair tactics that you can't use. And secondly, to bring those employers to the bargaining table once you get a union vote. Because that's been the other half of it. The ones who've gotten out there and fought, who spent years and years to get a union in place, and then the employer, Starbucks, I'm looking at you, won't come to the table and won't actually negotiate with these folks. So think of it this way. You know what AFSCME does for you. You look around at your sisters and brothers in the union movement, and you know what the unions do for them. We need to make that opportunity available to every worker in this country. It will strengthen our workers. I want to mention 2 more things, but I promise I'll do it fast. We invest in infrastructure in this country. I'm a big believer, roads, bridges, broadband, why? So people can go to work, so people can do their work. Child care is infrastructure. It is time for America to make child care available. And to pay child care workers commensurate with the responsibilities and training they take on. And my very last one, about what we've got to fight for at the federal level, because that's where the money is that we're all sitting around for 40 years now talking about how the price of housing is going up, right? We talk about it, we talk about it, we talk about it, and we make some moves at the margin, and what happens? The price of housing still goes up. We have a housing supply problem in this country. We need 180,000 more housing units, single-family homes, condos, apartments, right here in Massachusetts just to house the people who are here today. Young people have almost no chance to be able to buy their starter homes and to start building wealth. Housing is the best way that families build long-term health. It's the #1 retirement plan in America. Pay off your house and live on your Social Security. It is the #1 way that we pass wealth down to our children. If grandma and grandpa are lucky enough to be able to hang on to the house until they pass, there's wealth there for the next generation and the next generation. And housing is the best way we have to close the racial wealth gap in America, to make sure that everybody has access to housing. We're not going to build the housing units we need unless we say it is now time to put some federal money in to get this done. Not to demand that towns do it, but to make it attractive for towns to do it, and to say to towns, if you're willing to bring down the cost of construction in your town, and you figure out how to do it, change your zoning, change your building codes, change your inspection approaches. If you can bring down the cost of building in your town, and we see new houses coming in, there will be lots of federal money for you. So you can pay for that new elementary school, or you can pay for that new water plant. The federal government will be a partner to those communities that are ready to build housing. That is how we will strengthen middle-class America. Unions, childcare. I am so grateful for your endorsement, but more than anything else, I am grateful for 12 years of going down to Washington and knowing every day not only what I'm fighting for, but that when I fight for it, I've got you at my back. We're going to do this.